Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 17. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us here on this Monday, Steelers Nation. Dave, pretty quiet week, the calm before the storm, you could say. College football, a lot of fun this week watching Notre Dame, Ohio State, a lot of upsets, crazy. Some Steelers scouts were at that North Carolina Appalachian State game, and so I assume they've crossed off anyone who's playing defense in that game because there was none in that contest. So Steelers very quiet last couple of days, of course, a week away from their opener against the Bengals. So really excited for that one, of course.
Yeah, excited for college football. A lot of good college football games. Boy, that Pitt, West Virginia game was really exciting the other night. Been a couple other decent ones to watch along the way. Obviously, Georgia blowing out Oregon, and I think the game before that wasn't that too terribly close either. But good to have college football back, and most definitely the NFL season starting on Thursday this coming week, and the Steelers obviously off. We'll be back to work on Monday. And I think they'll probably have a couple of post-practice interviews there, and then Tomlin Tuesday, and then I think the players are off on Tuesday, and then we'll get into the first injury report for the Steelers on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then obviously the game on Sunday. And prior to that, either Wednesday or Friday, we don't know for sure just yet, but going to try to effort to have Paul Dehner Jr. back on from The Athletic to help us preview the Bengals game. And obviously you guys are going to be busy pounding out content, some film rooms, and as you mentioned, kind of the calm. This is it, brother. This is it until February for us right here. Not like we haven't been busy in the meantime, but kind of the official end of the off season for us. And I guess it kind of starts with this show, which is probably going to be a little bit on the lighter side today.
Even in retirement, Big Ben keeping us busy. We'll talk about that here a little bit later in the show. Ben not going away quietly. Just a heads up, Dave and I are recording this here Sunday evening around 7:30 my time. And so again, if any news breaks from now until the time you may be listening to this on Monday, we did not cover it. So just a heads up there on the timeline of events. Dave, before we get to Ben, I want to talk about some of the practice squad moves the Pittsburgh Steelers made on Friday. We already knew about some of the names that were reported, and some of those became official, like Renell Wren, the defensive tackle formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals. One new name to add to that list is running back Jason Huntley, a running back out of New Mexico State. A little undersized. I think he's 5'8", $190 is what he came out of college. And so he'll be the second running back added to the Steelers practice squad, joining Anthony McFarland. As of now, this team has 3 practice squad spots still available. If Derek Tuszka was going to be one, he no longer is, claimed off of waivers by the Tennessee Titans, which is becoming the next stop for so many Steelers edge rushers. And so Tuszka going to Tennessee. So again, 3 spots still left for Pittsburgh to officially fill.
Yeah, look, the Titans once again are becoming Pittsburgh South a little bit there, and I'm pretty convinced that had Derek passed through waivers there, that they probably would have tried to get him to the practice squad, but they obviously lost their Harold Landry, I think, to a knee injury there. So they had an immediate need there. So you put one on one together. The fit's kind of obvious there for Derek Tuszka with the Titans. So yeah, they've yet to really add any veteran type guys, and as you mentioned, 3 practice squad spots left. I would imagine we'll know about those sometime Monday morning there. But and several other Henry Mondeau and Kevin Rader, and sounds like Buddy Johnson might be going to San Francisco to their practice squad. It's not official yet, though, but several former Steelers on the move, and obviously probably not welcomed or not offered practice squad spots back, or if they were, they figured it was kind of a end of the road situation there.
And Kevin Rader also going to the newly formed Pittsburgh South, joining Tennessee. And so you have him there. You have Tuska, some of the former Steelers edge rushers to go to Tennessee, involve Tuzar Skipper, of course, Bud Dupree, Ola Daney, et cetera, et cetera. So Tuska, the next in that long line of guys there. And you're right, Buddy Johnson, it just didn't work out. And you have to appreciate Steelers having the wherewithal just to admit it didn't work. We're going to move on. He goes somewhere else. Wish him the best of luck. I actually have an article on Monday basically saying they should do the same with Kendrick Green. Just admit their mistake and move on. The worst, a bad thing to do is to make a mistake. The worst thing you can do is continue to hold on to that mistake and not admit that mistake. And so you can check out that article Monday on Steelers Depot. So again, a lot of outsiders coming in. Not surprised by that, as Wyatt O'Con get to kind of form the roster for the first time since taking over the Steelers. And so given the lack of depth and some of the injuries this team has had, I'm not surprised to see several outsiders come in, Huntley being the latest.
Yeah, I don't want to bury the lead here. I mean, on your summary on your story, but will Kendrick Green last the entire 2022 season on the Steelers 53-man roster?
I'll sound like you. Wouldn't bet my house on it. I don't know.
Right.
It's going to depend on injuries. I mean, he'll be inactive week 1, and it'll take an injury for him to even get a hat. And even if he gets a hat, again, as a basically a pure backup left guard, what do you do with him on game day? So actually, could he even get a hat if there was an injury? Or would this team call up a John LeGlue instead, because he's much more versatile than Kendrick Green is? So could he stick? Sure. But could he not? It's like 50-50 really at this point to me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I'm also with you with your declaration that obviously anything can happen in practice this week with an injury or whatnot. But I would be a bit surprised if he's not inactive for week 1 against the Bengals in Cincinnati.
I'd be shocked. I mean, they're going to have 8 active offensive linemen. You have your 5 starters, your backups being J.C. Hassenauer and Trent Scott. And, well, is Green am I missing somebody? Green becoming
well,
the
you're
8th?
Missing Jesse Davis.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, Jesse Davis. I knew I was missing somebody there. So, yeah, those are your 3 backups. I mean, Scott, we assume basically backup tackle. Davis, basically backup guard. Hassenauer, backup center. He can play guard in a pinch. Green, there is no role. There is no home for him.
As a one-position player, basically, at this point. Yeah.
You're a one-trick pony without that trick being anything good.
Right, exactly. So
Anyway,
I can't wait to look forward to reading that.
So yeah, we'll fill you in hopefully by Wednesday on the final 3 practice squad spots. Speaking of players going to different places, the Cleveland Browns becoming Pittsburgh Northwest slightly, I guess you could say. Got a couple of former Steelers headed up to Cleveland. That is Joe Haig, who reportedly signed a 1-year deal with the team, and then a little bit long ways round to it, but Jesse James, who's not been with Pittsburgh for several seasons, but he is now also reportedly signing a 1-year deal with the Browns to be their 3rd string tight end, according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. And so Haig and James going to Cleveland on the same day.
So Haig's not good enough to make the Steelers squad, but we'll slide right into that Brown squad, right? So one of the more confusing. And look, once again, this isn't. There goes the season. They lost Joe Haig, but the shape that this offensive line, at least the way it looks like going to start the season, along with how everybody played during the preseason and the position flexibility with Joe Haig, and he just really seemed to be, the way things looked, as the best swing tackle option at the time. It is a bit of a head scratcher. Now, who knows? Maybe they got something else up their sleeve at this point. If they have something up their sleeve, I wish they'd pull it out in a hurry to kind of calm the fears here. But it really does kind of seem like the 9 on the roster right now are going to be the 9. For right now. So once again, it's not the end of the world losing Joe Haig, but when you look at what's left over from that, it It was without a doubt the most curious cut that they had, in my opinion, when they cut down to 253.
Right, and that will be some, pretty good depth in Cleveland. They've, had issues at right tackle with Jack Conklin constantly being hurt. Again, my assumption is that they view Trent Scott as a better tackle than Joe Haig, and again, he knows the Pat Meyer system, and they wanted a better pure guard, and that's what they're hoping to get in Jesse Davis, and that made Haig the odd man out, and the contract maybe played a small role in that as well.
Possibly, yeah, and. We just got to keep our fingers crossed that this offensive line gels and gets better and takes to the system quick. Mike Tomlin, it's a work in progress, as he says, but, there's not going to be a lot of time to get this thing right, or else you could be staring down looking at, 2-4 or something like that, so they better get this right in a hurry.
Definitely. It is certainly the Steelers' biggest question mark heading into the season. Elsewhere, Dave, some more housekeeping before we get to the main event, that is Ben Roethlisberger's comments. Malik Reed taking a bit of a pay cut to join the Pittsburgh Steelers. Can you fill everybody in on the details of that, what appears to be a pay cut for Malik Reed?
Yeah, it looks like, maybe they went to Denver and had conversations and said, look, we're willing to trade for Malik. But as part of that, you guys have got to go to him and see if he's good, would be open, if he does indeed want to become a Steeler, that he needs to take that $2.433 million salary, which was a restricted tender that he signed, and be willing to adjust that down to $1.5 million. In my head, and the way things are being reported by Phil Yates of ESPN, that sounds like the way this thing processed. Now, I will tell you this. His contract, when it initially hit the NFLPA site a couple of days ago, it did so at the $2.433 million, which makes sense. He's got to come to you first to get the paperwork done. So he did arrive with a $2.433 million salary, according to Phil Yates, and this was reported on, I think, September 2nd, that he agreed to adjust that down to $1.5 million. That has not hit the NFLPA site, but that's not surprising because of the timing and all the cuts and all the processing that they have to do. And obviously nothing happens on Sunday. So I would think maybe on Monday we would see that savings finally hit. But it looks like a basic pay cut, $2.433 million down to $1.5 million. I mean, it's not a lot of savings overall, but I mean, it does tell you that they weren't. They're not entirely cramped for salary cap space, but maybe a little move like this maybe prevents you from having to restructure the contract of TJ Watt, because you remember me saying this thing's going to be close,
right?
Probably either way here, depending on kind of how some of these cuts go and all like that, and how much. The biggest question is what are they wanting to go into the season with as far as free money, basically, to be able to work with practice squad elevations and in-season injury replacements. And remember, they've already got now, 6 guys, I believe, on the injured reserve list. Now, thankfully, all of those players are on split salaries. Okay. So that does help you out a little bit there, but it's still a little bit of money tied up in that. You obviously have to complete out the practice squad, and that'll be over $3 million by the time that, well over $3 million by the time that practice squad is finalized there. And some, maybe they viewed this as, we need every dollar that we can get free here, and to maybe help prevent them from having to restructure the contract of TJ Watt. So we'll see, but Malik must have really wanted to come to Pittsburgh to give up a little bit of money there. Now, however, as I like to say, at least he's still scheduled to, it looks like, to be an unrestricted free agent after the season. So maybe he's looking at it as a situation as, yeah, I'll go there and I'll play it out, and maybe I'll have a good season and be able to capitalize that way. And really, probably the only other alternative anyway was, him not agreeing to that, and the Broncos saying, well, we can't help you there, and we're maybe having to cut him outright, and then him probably being having to accept a minimum salary contract to get on a 53-man roster at that point.
Exactly. I think he would have lost more money had he not agreed to that pay cut. I was going to ask you about what are you thinking on a TJ Watt restructure before the season starts? It sounds like you think that may not happen now.
It really is a 50-50 situation, Alex, because you don't know what their plan is as far as how much they want to keep in kind of reserve money. So, I mean, look, you look at things right now, and I'm still waiting to update a few things because of final practice squad spots and all like that. But I have them. Hold on here. What is column 36? That's 36 there. What is that column? 35 is the complete. Anyway, I think they're well under $4 million in salary cap space right now. So are they going to be willing to go into the season that way? I mean, we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be tight. I mean, again, with Watt, they would. It's not all or nothing with him. You could restructure just a chunk of that if this team needed to. Correct.
Oh yeah, you don't have to do the whole thing for sure. Right.
Okay, so keep an eye on that. I mean, if it happens, it'll have to happen within the next 5 days, essentially, right?
Yes, normally they get this all done the week prior to the season there. So, maybe they free up like $5 million or something like that. Gotcha. But that would hit probably. I don't know. It might be done now, as far as we know. And it might have been filed to the NFLPA, just has not hit the site because some things are still filing in. In fact, they currently now. Have these Steelers, according to the NFLPA site, 57 players under contract, which obviously is right. You got the 53 on the roster, and you've got the 4 previous on IR. They still have to process the moves of KZ and Calvin Austin, that section of the moves to go through there. And then a couple of injury adjustments just came in on who was it? Who did I say? Javon.
UG. Oh, yeah. UG3. Yep.
Yeah. Javon McKinley. That was 23,889. You had the injury adjustment on UG3, as you mentioned, which I think was 160 something thousand. And then another one on TD Moultrie was 23,000. You still have 2 more injury settlements coming for Tuzar Skipper and
Master Teague. Right?
Master Teague is the other one there. Now, though, if they look anything similar to the previous ones, the other rookies not named UG3 because UG3 was a 3-week injury settlement. The other guys have been 1-week injury settlements. So one of those guys, Master Teague, if that's the case, that'd be another 23,889. And let's see, with Skipper, he had another accrued season there, so it'd be another slightly higher amount than the 23,008. Not anything huge amount here overall, but it's still stuff that's got to hit the cap prior to the season here. So it literally could go either way. With Watt, it's all going to come down to how much money they want to have, in reserves to start the season with there, because you have to make sure you have enough to cover the weekly elevations and obviously any in season moves. Now, normally they've liked to carry like around $8 to $9 million these last couple of seasons. So maybe they've decided that because they haven't been using that amount, and in fact they rolled over this last year, they rolled over 7.758 million, a little bit more than that from 2021. So maybe they're looking at and saying, well, we don't need to carry as much as we have in other seasons. Maybe we can get by with carrying a little bit less cap room.
Gotcha. We shall see how it works under Omar Khan. And Andy Weidel. All right, Dave, let's get to the headline of Sunday. On Sunday, actually, I think it was a couple days ago, but the Twitter account didn't announce it until today, that Ben Roethlisberger has a new podcast coming out called Footballin', spelled with the Steelers kind of Yinzer spelling of it all. And the first episode dropped on Sunday. And so Ben, with host Spencer, whose last name I do not know. I don't know who this other guy is. I know he's kind of been around the channel for a little while. But anyway, Ben speaking about a variety of different topics, of course, weighing in on the Steelers quarterback situation and saying that he feels that Mitch Trubisky should be the Steelers starter, saying, quote, "I do, in my opinion, feel that it's Mitch's job. He's not done anything to lose the job. He's played well enough as the starter, but ultimately it's going to be Coach T's decision." So your thoughts on Ben's thoughts about who the starting quarterback should be.
You don't think this is going to make the media rounds next week?
No, never, ever.
You don't think maybe this is going to culminate with by Wednesday or Thursday, Ben doing a radio interview, do you?
Who, Ben? No, never. I'm sure it will.
Look, overall, now I immediately fast forwarded to the 23-minute mark when they got done tasting all the beers or whatever they were doing there and eating pickles or whatnot. But I went right to the meat and potatoes and obviously listened to all the comments that he made about the starter and kind of the comparing and contrasting of his rookie season to what Kenny Pickett might face and all. And I got to be honest with you. Everything that I've basically heard him say on that topic, I don't think he's wrong. I really don't. Now I know you obviously think that if Kenny Pickett's ready, go ahead and play him. Mm-hmm. And within that somewhere, Ben said something to the line to the effect of, once you go to Kenny, you can't go back from him, go the other way. And I know technically, and you probably take a lot more issue with this than I do, but I agree with that. And my thought on this all along is, and Roethlisberger said it in so many words, that Trubisky didn't do anything to lose the job during training camp and the preseason. Now, other people listening to this right now are saying, yeah, but he didn't do anything to win it either. Okay. If you want to take the side of saying that really all three of the quarterbacks and really Pickett specifically, if you want to talk about the biggest jump maybe of any one player of the three quarterbacks, you could put up a very good argument and say Kenny Pickett was that guy. But in the same breath, you could say that, in a word, Trubisky did progress as well too. I mean, thank God, because first two, and what did he have? 20-something snaps going into that final preseason game. I mean, they didn't really give him many snaps to start with. But I think what we saw, at least in the preseason finale game against the Lions, it was obviously his best showing to date. And I think at that point, it at least gives you the confidence of saying, this guy can be our quarterback to start the season, and we'll roll as long as we need to roll with him. And then, and as Ben said, and he says, my wish is that they don't start hollering for Kenny after one bad game. Well, you can forget about it.
Have you been to Pittsburgh lately?
Yeah. Know your audience, right? Mm-hmm. We all know that's going to happen. We've known that's going to happen, or that is going to happen the moment they drafted Kenny Pickett. Really, yep. People want to see the new guy. They want to see the future. A lot of people who weren't even, a lot of people who listen to us, for lack of better words, weren't even really close. They know the Ben Roethlisberger story, but they weren't in front of the TV watching it when it happened. Mm-hmm. Heck, how old were you in 2004?
11, just a little wee, same size really, but younger in spirit.
Don't make me laugh. I'm hurting today. But a lot of people, I guess, I don't want to spoiled, jaded. I don't know. A lot of people probably envision, well, it happened for Ben. Why can't it happen for Kenny?
Right.
Now I will say this, and I've said it all along. Kenny exits college a lot older, a lot more mature, a lot more experience in games played, a lot more polished than Ben Roethlisberger. Sure, but all that being said, I subscribe to what Ben Roethlisberger said. Let Mitch have this until it's time to take it away from him. You don't take it away from him after one bad game. However, if you get a culmination of, look, we're losing and you're not playing well, and a lot of it is on you, then, it's time to make the change. And then you make the change at that point. I don't think you look back. It's Kenny's ball game at that point, barring injury or barring, maybe having to bail him out late in the game or something. But even then, I think Mike Tomlin's going to be real delicate with this. I do believe that he's not going to have a quick hook, if you will, on this. But, for lack of a better word, everything that Ben said, even him, the comparing and contrasting, which we'll get into in a moment, I agreed with, and I imagine you probably didn't.
I think there was maybe more agreement than you might think on the surface to the idea of the general fan who may be saying that Trubisky didn't do anything to earn the job. I would disagree with that, to be honest. I think Trubisky played well, and it's not wrong to say that this guy, should be playing or should be the starter. I get the sentiment behind it overall. My thought is that it really has nothing to do with Trubisky, whether he played well or didn't play well. It really just comes down to, is Pickett ready or not? Because he's going to play. He's going to start at some point. He is the future. That was the intent when you drafted him 20th overall. So my thought, it's really Trubisky's performance is partially irrelevant in the sense of it's really just about Pickett to a man. Is he ready to be the guy or not? And I think that he is. So again, I understand what Ben's saying. And even to the thing I will disagree with Ben on, though, is the idea of, you can't start him week one because if he plays poorly, then you really can't go back from him. That's the idea.
Right.
And I don't agree with that because I don't plan for failure in that regard. I think we had a reader that said similar a couple weeks ago, and I'm going in with a positive outlook saying this is my franchise quarterback, our number one quarterback on the board. We took him this high for a reason. We believe in Kenny Pickett. We're not going to sit there and worry about all the negative things that could happen. Plus, and maybe even more importantly, is that because most people think he's going to start around Halloween. Will that happen? Who the heck knows? But let's just pretend for a second that is when he would start, around week 9. If he struggles the next 3 weeks, then you're going to have the same conversation just later in the season. Do you still go with Pickett the rest of the way or not? At some point, this guy is going to struggle. There are going to be down days and bad games and, throws you want to have back. Ben himself said that in the interview. So at some point, you're going to have the conversation of, oh my goodness, Pickett had a bad game. What do you do with him? That's a conversation you'll have whether it's week 1, week 9, week 13, week 1 of next year. To me, that doesn't really play into the conversation. Again, it just comes down to, is Pickett ready? To me, he is. He's going to be your starter at some point. Let's get that ball rolling sooner than later. But I understand, and I agree with Ben, that Trubisky did nothing to lose the job. He did play well, and him being the week 1 starter, to me, would be no surprise as him and Tomlin goes in that direction when he announces it later this week.
And I think Ben, to a point too, said, look, it gives Pickett a little bit more time to learn, scheme and see more on tape and how. Sure. I think you're doing him a better favor overall the longer you can delay him having to hit the field.
Yeah, but some guys have success early and some guys don't. And it just, is he ready? Can you run your offense? And I think that he can. I get the intrinsic value of sitting, but I don't think it's a mandate to sit. It's also kind of funny to hear Ben say, hey, he should sit, when Ben himself didn't sit his rookie year, and it turned out all right.
But he did acknowledge the fact that, look, I was supposed to be the number 3.
Right. Well, he wasn't ultimately. Ultimately he was what he was.
Right. And you could get 2 snaps into this game against the Bengals, yep. and you never know how those things are going to play out that way. And I did also agree with the fact when Ben basically was asked to compare and contrast the differences between his rookie season and kind of what Pickett faces is when Ben came on that field for the first time against the Ravens in relief of an injured Tommy Maddox. He did so with a very good defense of his on the other side of the field and a lot of experienced, older, notable players on offense. And
sure.
and he said the attitude was more just don't mess it up, and when you look at this team for the Steelers, yes, is the Steelers defense supposed to be a very good unit in 2022? Yes, but is this 2022 unit supposed to be equal to or better than the 2004 unit? At this moment, I would say no, not even close. And hopefully they make. Hopefully, that
you're eating your words,
right? Hopefully, I'm eating my stuttering words there. But and in the same breath, I mean, assuming Mitch Trubisky is the starter, where is your other experienced veteran type players on that side of the ball? I mean, Deontay Johnson's now in his 4th year. I mean, that's about your. I mean, I guess you could look at Chooks too for the most part, but I mean, that's it. That's the list. I mean, you're actually hoping that you have guys, and with good reason, because they are leaders, that Pat Freiermuth and Najee Harris become kind of pillars of that offense. But those guys have only played X amount of games too, and they're it's the young leading the young, at this point. So, and I wrote this at the end of my piece post on Ben's comments on kind of contrasting and comparing his rookie season and what maybe shapes up its Pickett's here is Ben's situation was more don't screw this up. If Kenny, assuming Trubisky starts the season, when Pickett comes in or he finally hits the field, it's not going to be don't screw this up, it's going to be make it better.
Right.
So
sure, I get that.
And I think if there's one part of that interview that Ben had or podcast Ben speaking there that I thought he was on the money with, I thought it was exactly that.
I agree.
And that's something we haven't really talked about. That's something nobody really talks about here is when it's kind of an understood, But it is good to kind of, I think, hear that right before the season starts here is, man, when Ben hit the field, he had that defense on the other side. And, man, I just got to do what I do, to the most part and not screw this up. And he did, he played obviously well and he made some plays, but there was a lot of running the football and short passes. Obviously, we were treated to, early on, Ben being Ben type plays, and those were certainly difference makers in several of those games, and that was enough over the top of him not screwing everything else up along with the defense to allow them to win all those games in a row there. So I think if you're thinking that, well, Ben did it, why can't Kenny Pickett come in and do the same thing? I really think it's a lot apples and oranges situation here on both sides of football, and I thought Ben laid that out very well.
Sure, I agree wholeheartedly. The situations, while the general parameters may be similar in terms of a team that wants to run the ball, hopefully have a good defense, not have the quarterback do too much, I get that the difference certainly is pretty stark between the overall feeling where this team is at, and as Ben outlined, how veteran this or the room was back in 2004. I did the actual numbers on that just based on just baseline starters, starting running backs, starting two receivers, tight end, offensive line. The average age of that 2004 offense was 28.6 years old. Fast forward to 2022, same parameters. The average age is 24.6, so exactly 4 years younger. There is not one player on this current offensive slate that is 28 years old, even hitting the average age of what that 2004 team was. And so I understand that it's a different set of circumstances, but I mean, to me, what does it matter? That's an opportunity for Pickett to become a leader and to become that guy. We talked plenty this offseason about the void in leadership, the need for guys to step up, and Pickett is certainly capable of being a leader and a rallying figure for this team. I don't think it's too big for him. I think it comes natural to him. So again, to the question of, who should be the starting quarterback, the veteranship or lack thereof on this team, to me really doesn't change my decision of whether or not it should be Pickett or Trubisky.
Do I think he's mature enough to handle the starting job? Absolutely, I do. I mean, look, that's another thing that Ben kind of hit on that I thought was good. He said, and evidently he wasn't at the preseason opener there, but it kind of felt like a big kind of sink or swim moment for Kenny the first time he took the field. You know,
I mean, they chanted his name after his first completion. I mean, that's a heck of a high expectations.
You know, I mean, the guys coming into the game, and it feels like the third quarter of the AFC Championship game to some degree, even though and obviously the magnitude, but it did have that kind of electric feeling to him to the degree of, man, I hope he doesn't get up. I mean, he obviously, played all of his games at Heinz Field, now known as Acrisure Stadium. But as we talked about throughout the entire preseason, Kenny Pickett none of this has looked too big for him at all in any single moment, snap, whatever. But even within that, and as well as he did progress, and I mean, true or false, he made the biggest progress of the three quarterbacks from snap one of the preseason to the end of the preseason.
True. Some of that's expected. Rudolph has been with a team. Trubisky more of a veteran, new system, but not a rookie. But sure, Pickett certainly from where he was at week one of training camp to where he's at now is a monster step forward.
I'm old school. I come the longer that you can maybe delay him hitting the field, I think the better.
Yeah, I'm just not there. My thought is when he's ready, he's ready. And what is Kenny?
I'm not going to throw. If Mike Tomlin comes out on Monday or Tuesday or whatnot and says Kenny Pickett's our starter, I'm not throwing anything. I could certainly see already. I could already envision him justifying that. All right.
Well, let me put it this. Let me spin it a different way. What more does Kenny Pickett have to do to show that he's the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Wait his turn.
See, to me, that's not an answer that, like, how is he supposed to handle that? I mean, either he's ready or he's not. I think
get game plan through a couple of games here. Go through the process of the film study and the intricacies of in-season practices. Not that it's overwhelming or anything like that, but just going through the motions at this point now.
Yeah, I mean, again, I get that, and there's value in that. I don't want to overlook that and sweep that under the rug. But I mean, either was your number one quarterback. I think you feel like he's comfortable with hoping and game planning and watching film as a fifth-year senior at Pitt, as a guy that certainly has played so well this summer. I mean, I feel like those are things he'll have to learn, but you learn by doing. I learned by putting this guy in the game, and that's where you really see progression, is by doing, not just watching.
And look, I mean, preseason too, you get a lot of vanilla stuff too. It'll allow him maybe to see more things. Look, once again, if Tomlin comes out on Tuesday and says Kenny Pickett's our starter, I'm not batting. I'm not saying, oh boy, I'm not sure about what Tomlin's doing here, And no, I'm not going to get 3 games into the season and say, see, shouldn't have started him that early. I just personally feel like the right decision here is let Pickett start let Trubisky start until he can't start no more for the obvious reasons.
And I think that will be the likely actual outcome. I think Trubisky will be the week 1 starter, and it'll be just a wait and see approach on when Kenny Pickett will start. I think
can you win just as easily with Trubisky versus Pickett right now at this moment? Who gives you the better shot at winning week 1?
I mean, I think it's pretty similar. Again, it just goes back to, is Kenny Pickett ready to be that guy? And I think that he is. That's really the only question to me that's relevant at this point. Is he ready to play?
All right.
So I don't know. I mean, who's I understand Trubisky having the experience may help him at the beginning, but at some point Pickett's got to play. At some point, the first game will be his first game, and there's going to be some growing pains along the way, whether that's week 1 or week 4 or next year or whenever.
Week 24, week 28, because sometimes you see some of these kids come out, and they get into they get that buzz there, and they get into their second season, and defensive coordinators figure out, well, let's see how he does against this,
Right. And my thought is, let's get the growing pains out of the way early.
Okay.
That's because it's going to happen. He's going to have a bad game, whether he starts or waits or whatever the case is. It's at one point we're going to come back and say, man, Dave, Kenny Pickett sucked on Sunday. That would just really hurt this team. And that's natural. I mean, it's happened to every quarterback. but you work through it.
Let me throw this in there. How much does it get weighted that a couple of your first few games are divisional games?
To me, again, it doesn't matter. I mean, it goes back to Tomlin's comment of we overcomplicate things. We try to have all this red tape and infrastructure to cover up fears of the what ifs. And just, is he ready or is he not? I know I harp on that so much, but that's really what I keep coming back to.
Would you imagine that you would have been in this place right now with your line of thinking the moment they took Kenny Pickett? I know it's hard. I know it's hard to,
sure,
because look, you got to see it with your eyes,
I didn't think it'd be this much of a conversation. I didn't think Pickett would be this good this early. So I am a little surprised.
Did you think Trubisky would be better than what he's been so far? And once again, you've seen him, you got to see him all throughout training camp. You've got a luxury that I did not have. But then again, he had 20 something snaps up until that preseason finale,
Right. I think Trubisky's been about as advertised. I think it was harder to evaluate him because you hadn't seen him in a while. You saw him in 6 pass attempts last year, a couple of preseason games, and he was coming off that Chicago, stint there when he got drafted. So I kind of went in with a pretty clean slate, but to me, he was basically what I expected.
Okay. And to summarize again, you at the moment Kenny Pickett was drafted, you never thought you'd be where you're at with your thought process right now.
No, I didn't think it'd be. I didn't think I'd be the one guy sitting here week one saying this guy should start. I thought it'd be a more Trubisky's the guy. Pickett's going to sit. That's the plan. It's not going to change too much. Pickett will look okay, but generally we all accept that Trubisky's the week one guy.
And your line of thought is more along lines that he's going to go through his growing pains sooner or later, and he handled the preseason perfectly. So why not start the process now in the story period?
Right, because he's going to start. He's going to be your franchise. You're going to give him the keys at some point, right? He got his permit. He passed the driver's license test. They gave him a license. They gave him the keys. He's going to drive the car. I mean, he's done all the steps.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. But Ben, different point of view, and I understand that. And again, I'm not going to when Trubisky's named the starter, presumably on Tuesday, when Mike Tomlin talks, I'm not going to be shocked, obviously, and I won't be that upset about it either.
I think the most shocking thing at this point could possibly be Kenny's going to be our number 3.
Is there any chance that happens? Do you think there's any scenario in which that occurs?
I mean, I don't know with Tomlin. I just don't. My gut tells me that won't be the case, but I'm not sure I'd put the old house papers up on it.
I mean, what would be the justification? I mean, I'm answering my own question, but Rudolph, he's the experienced guy. He's come off the bench before, but man, I mean, at one point it was Rudolph's first time off the bench. To me, that's not a valid reason.
Right.
So,
I mean, we agree that would be the biggest shock. Not Kenny Pickett being named the starter. It would be.
Well, I'd be pretty shocked if Pickett was named the starter. I'm fully expecting Trubisky to be the guy.
Okay.
Would you not? You wouldn't be shocked if Pickett was named the starter?
I wouldn't. Like I said, I wouldn't be. I mean, I'm not going to drop my. You're not going to hear a loud crash of me dropping my glass iced tea or anything.
Okay.
No, my jaw's not going to hit the floor. I mean, I'm fully expecting Trubisky to be the guy, but I'm not going to be. Oh my God! I'm not going to call my wife up here. Do you know what they just did?
No, clutching your pearls.
No. To me, the biggest the thing that would shock me the most, I think, is if they named Rudolph the number 2. Okay.
What brand of iced tea do you get? Is there a go-to Vegas iced tea? Because Pittsburgh has Turner's. Pittsburgh folks knows Turner's.
No, and look, before I left Florida, it was Publix had the best diet sweet tea. Okay. And Publix is you're probably not familiar.
I'd say it's a grocery chain. I'm aware.
Okay. I mean, they're huge down south, and they had just gotten to Northwest Florida a couple of years before we had moved, and I got turned on to there. Now I have to really the best one that I have found. God bless them is the Walmart Great Value
really
brand.
Okay.
Yeah the problem is everybody and their brother likes that. You go in there, and if you don't time it just right, there's like two gallon jugs in there, and I buy 9 at a time. I keep 9
Go
of
to Costco or something.
Huh? They don't have it, and I don't have it.
I guess Walmart brand.
Yeah. Why don't you? Now I know how you are with certain brands of stuff that you don't like, and you're only just turned 30. All right. Now imagine me, old man Dave set in his ways all these years, and you bring something in the house that's not normal for me. It ruins my day.
Is that how you hurt your back, fighting some man over some iced tea? I'm assuming that's how it happened.
Believe it or not, it hurt my back tying my damn shoes, man.
How old are you? I feel bad. We're all sympathizing with you, but I'm also going to make fun of you for being very old.
I was tying my shoes a week ago Saturday, and my back has been out ever since.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to get your iced tea, because in Pittsburgh, it's Turner's or bust. That is the way to go.
Yeah, mine is great value. And if you live in Vegas, don't. It's horrible if you live in Vegas. Don't go get it.
All right,
leave some in there for me, please, because like I said, I keep 9 gallons of it in the refrigerator at a time.
All right. Anything else from Ben? I mean, Ben was, to me, a little repetitive when he just kept saying kind of the same thing about Trubisky versus Pickett. And again, to me, Ben was not bashing Pickett. He talked him up and praised the job he's done. And so I don't want to have this, it's not Ben and Mason. And Ben seems to have already a much better relationship with Kenny Pickett than he ever did with Mason Rudolph. And so I don't think it was supposed to be a critique on Pickett, just more of the, I would call it old school.
What would he do? Yeah.
Yeah. And what would he do in just the old school view of the veteran starts and the rookie sits and waits.
Right. Well, and then also, once again, to compare and contrast, I thought it was appropriate. Look, there shouldn't be really, Ben shouldn't have to go on the radio this next week for anything taken out of context. I don't think and once again, for everything that he had to say about the quarterback position and all like that, I thought he handled it well, really, to be honest with you. And I was on board with everything that he said.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with basically anything that Ben said. And
I don't view it as him taking any shot at Kenny or Mitch or anything. I didn't view it any of that. Although he never did mention Mason's name.
He never did once, did he?
Not once there, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so the only, I think Joe Clark wrote it up Sunday. To me, this was kind of more just general commentary. Maybe there was probably a name that Ben had in mind when he was talking about it, but he never said the name, but he talked about the difficulty of...
Who could
that be? You're doing the wind horse on me.
I'm pointing my fingers. Who could that be? And I literally have tried to think about it, but who do you think it was he was talking about? Why don't you set it up? Why don't you give this context?
Yeah, Ben was basically just talking about the difficulty of cut down times, since cut downs just occurred, and you become friends with guys and seeing them get released and the hardship of that. And so Ben basically saying is that it's hard whenever you have your friends and guys that have been with the team for years and you think they're going to make the team, they're going to be safe, and all of a sudden they're cut and you're just shocked, saying, wow, I can't believe that teammate was just released. The difficulty of trying to ever get close to somebody. And for Ben, I mean, he went through the whole team, left at some point because he was last man standing for so long. And so Ben never mentioned a specific name or really give any sort of clue about who that might be. We could be here all night talking about who those names could be. I don't know. That's a Vince Williams, or maybe he didn't like the way this team handled Heath while that was a retirement. It was kind of, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think about what guys that he was close with. Willie Colon, maybe Kelvin Beachum. I'm not quite sure.
Well, he's close with Kiesel, but the time that Kiesel was cut in like a March. Okay. And then Kiesel made it back by that June, I think, June or July of that same year. And I was viewing him talking about seeing guys cut like during the final round of cuts or cut down days, unless he was just broad brushing them, letting guys go. But I thought the conversation was generally about cuts during from start of camp on and them letting. So and I trying to rack my brain. Well, who was such a good friends with Ben that was cut around final cut down times? And I drew a blank on it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I didn't spend much time thinking about it, to be honest. We could really, run ourselves ragged trying to come up with a list of names. So to me, it was just kind of a throwaway comment, because of course it's always hard when your friends get cut and whenever you're the veteran on the team and you have relationships with guys and you have moves that maybe you don't always agree with. Whenever you're the franchise quarterback, you feel like, I want to keep the guys that I like, but I have no idea who specifically he may have been referring to.
Yeah, me either.
Anything else from Ben? I mean, the podcast format is the first portion's a lot of non-football talk. Then he gets into some football talk. He talked about his own difficulties as a rookie that you mentioned, the feeling of I don't want to screw this thing up. Beyond that, I think he mentioned a little bit about Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, the Young Money crew, but I don't think that really was much of a talking point.
Right. I think we covered the bulk of what was good. Obviously, talking about the quarterback race this year.
Right. All right, Dave, any other Steelers news you want to get to? I think it's a shorter show today with the weekend pretty quiet, the last quiet weekend before the football season, NFL season starts up. So any other thoughts on anything we did not address?
No, how long? Have we got about 45 minutes in this. I don't know if we got any, let's see if we got any emails here we can talk about. Let's see. Roland Saucier. Guys, the most obvious and glaring need is the offensive line. Why don't the Steelers take a look at Darrell Williams? He says the dude started over 40 games for the Bills. Not sure why he hasn't been picked up yet. What do you guys think? He says, David Knox, thank you for the great content. You guys are the best Steelers site on the planet. Peace and love, Roland. Roland, I mean, Darrell Williams is somebody I think that's come up on a couple of posts, right? Didn't either Tom Meade or Jonathan Heitritter include Darrell Williams in a couple of earlier, several weeks ago, kind of guys that the Steelers could look at? I mean, the obvious answer to that is they think they're happy with what they've built now,
Right. The question is why? Why are they happy with what they have?
I mean, we can't roll. We're going to have to watch this thing into the first quarter of the season here and see if this offensive line gets back. Maybe they have looked into Darrell. We don't know. We're kind of crying over spilt milk at this point. I mean, I trust me, nobody gets the frustration about the offensive line more than Alex and I at this point right now. And let me tell you, if this thing goes south in a hurry up front and there is no progress, and if indeed there is even worse regression on top of it, I mean, it's going to be a lot of people say, well, don't know why you didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, with Williams specifically, I couldn't tell you the reason. Sometimes it's medical. Didn't he deal with some medical stuff a couple of years ago with his knees? I think he did recover from that, but he's getting older. And again, I think they wanted guys who were versatile. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but guys that know the Pat Meyer system. And Trent Scott's that guy. Now, do I think that's the right approach? No, but for an offensive line that looks so uncomfortable learning Meyer's techniques, I think they wanted a guy with Scott where that would not be an issue, where they felt like he had a good grasp and understands what Meyer wants, and that gives them, in theory, some level of comfort.
I mean, look, and the last moment deal for Jesse Davis obviously shows you that they knew they weren't where they needed to be, Right.
Well, I think they wanted a guard. They needed a backup guard because Kendrick Green cannot be the backup guard on his team, being only left guard. They needed someone to play left and right guard. That's where Davis worked this summer. That was, to me, the reason why that it was less about tackle and more about guard.
Right. I not only do you need this starting five to make progress, you need all five of them to stay healthy too.
Which, good luck with that.
Yeah. Good luck not having any of those guys miss any snaps. Yeah. John.
Anything else?
John Meza from Utah, longtime listener, first time emailer. John here from Utah. I know you guys have talked at length about Oladokun, why he didn't play and whatnot. He says, I was thinking this was Colbert's draft. You think that no one else wanted him, but Colbert took him anyway, just to cover their butts, maybe dealt the kid a rough hand, in my opinion, but it explains why he didn't get any burn. So and this is labeled a parting gift. So was the Colbert selection of Oladokun a let the old man just pick what he wants as he goes out the door? I'll let you. I know how you're going to answer. So go ahead.
I mean, probably. I mean, it's Colbert's last pick, and they're all clapping for him. And he says Chris Oladokun, and they say, "All right, old man, you can have this one, and we'll get you out of here with a nice parting gift. Tell him what he's won." Listen, I'm not going to spend more time on Oladokun. I understand the reason why they took him was they needed a fourth quarterback. We're not going to get him as a UDFA. He had a lot of pre-draft interest with the way Pittsburgh does their payout structure. A quarterback like that's going to get a partial, base salary guarantee, the way that Carson Strong got it in Philadelphia. Pittsburgh does not do that. They give out $20,000 signing bonuses. So basically, they knew if they didn't draft him, they weren't going to get him. And that, to me, was the reason why they took him in the 7th round.
I mean, the way John is setting this up, I envision him thinking of Kevin Colbert tying the tie around his head and putting on some black eye paint underneath his eyes and going rogue here. They drew first blood. And I'll show them. I'm going to turn. They think I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to put Chris's name on this card and turn it. No, I don't think that's the way it went. I just think it was just bad process, as Alex has said a few times here.
It wasn't even bad process. They're just cheap. I mean, they got to change their UDFA model. We'll see if that happens under Kahn and Weidl. They're just a cheap bunch when it comes to undrafted guys, and that's what led them to draft them.
All right, I think we got caught up that quick on the emails on this short kind of weekend here. Probably a lot of these are going to come in, people thinking we're recording this Monday or whatnot. But once again, the team will work some on Monday. There'll be an interview session with a locker room session that will probably be some videos or whatnot will come out on that on Monday, and then we'll write about it. Then obviously the Mike Tomlin press conference on Tuesday. Alex and I'll be back on Wednesday, recapping. By then, we ought to have a full practice squad set. We will have the Tomlin press conference to discuss behind us, and obviously any other news that takes place until before then, between now and then, I should say. So we will be back on Wednesday. We haven't decided yet when we're going to get in the Bengals beat writers, so that could be potentially part of the Wednesday show as well too. So you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. I'd much rather trade off a couple of prayers for my back for donations at this time. But also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar. And until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.